Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga-Texas construction update video.
Well, welcome back to Giga-Texas. It's Friday the 24th of February 2023 and it's a very nice day to fly today. A little bit overcast, but otherwise great visuals. And we get a chance to start off a little bit early, as you can see here, for the flight around parts of the main factory. Now, we're also less than 1 week out from Investors Day that'll be held here on Wednesday, the 1st of March, next week. Now, there's going to be a bunch of other events around that Investors Day going on. One of them, as you can see here, is going to run from noon to 5 o'clock, not too far from here, just a few miles south at Southeast Metro Park. Very similar to an event that we did last year just before Cyber Rodeo. There's going to be several people that are YouTubers that cover Giga-Texas that will have a chance to have some question and answers. I'll be there as well, so I hope that you will be able to come out. Now here is the link if you want to register. It's free. There will be drinks and pizzas, but if you want to make a donation, you can do this on that link as well. There's a couple of things I want to talk about in the intro before we get into the video today. The first is this over at that West Main entrance. It's really starting to shape up. They're starting to add a little bit more of that darker gravel mix in and amongst all of the concrete. And also, as you can see here on the inside, that reconfiguration work has really come along. There's a companion trapezoidal shape on the floor. It looks like possibly some sort of a raised platform. And also take a look at the stairwell that has been added on near the glass windows, just to the north side of those glass doors for the main entrance. So it's really shaping up, and it looks like they are trying to get it ready for the Investors Days next week. So we'll see how close they get to having it completed. Another thing I want to talk about briefly is here over at the east side. That intersection, that turbo roundabout, has gotten the last sections of concrete, as you can see, and it looks like it's really coming together quickly. There's a few other things that they need to finish up, but it looks like this may also be completed by next Wednesday for Investors Day, so pretty cool. One other thing I want to talk about is on that south end, we've seen some of that water dewatering system going on, and also that circular excavation that was made amongst where they're doing the dewatering. So let's talk a little bit more about what they are doing at that end of the building today.
In several of my previous videos, we've seen this operation going on the southwest side of the factory, and you can see with the arrows that now they have this circular pit. They have this red water tank with a series of vertical white water pipes around that pit and a number of other materials nearby. So I thought we would discuss a little bit more about what is going on here. Now we know that the company Griffin out of Houston has been working in this particular area for some time, and this image from my 22 February video shows you what this looks like, and this is part of a dewatering system that they have operational on this end of the building right now. But they've also started to assemble this circular structure. And with this top-down view on the left-hand side, you get a really good idea of what this structure looks like, and that circular pit, and of course the dewatering red tank and those pipes that I mentioned. In the image on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see all of these other components nearby. Some of them are the external surfaces of this structure, and some of them are these semicircular structural beams. So what I think they are constructing is something called a liner plate shaft, and these images give you an idea of what this may look like. The image on the left gives you an idea of a linear plate shaft approximately the size of the one here at Giga-Texas. The one on the right gives you an idea of a deep one and how this could be used for maybe constructing or making some intersections of underground pipes. Not exactly sure what the purpose here is at Giga-Texas, but I do know these liner plate shafts provide stability and protection when they are constructing new tunnels or relining structures under highways, or in this case, lining vertical shafts. Interestingly, they will put the first segment into the ground in that circular excavation that we see now. Once that is in, they will start digging deeper, and then they will install additional segments as they get to the final depth. And this may be to allow future equipment to be installed down into this shaft. And I think also the dewatering that is going on may be part of the necessary process of building this particular shaft to make sure that the water table has been cleared out enough to be able to construct this. But anyway, something I'll continue to watch, and we'll see what clues develop here at Giga-Texas. But I thought I would give you at least a little bit of insight of what we are seeing going on the south side of the building in relation to some of the other construction that will be getting ready to start soon. I hope that you found this review and information helpful.
So there you have it, a lot of activity going on here at Giga-Texas. A new main entrance is really coming along, that intersection, and we talked a little bit about the work that's going on the south end. I hope that you enjoyed the discussion, and I hope you have a great weekend coming up. As always, thank you very much for your support, and let's get into the video. Take care.
My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga-Texas. Well, it's a beautiful early morning here at Giga-Texas today. We're looking across the east side where the parking lot is located, and now the north end of the building, and you can see the cyber berms all lit up and painted white as well. So let's proceed down the west side of the building, and we'll take a look at some changes at the main entrance area in just a bit. As we approach here on the west side of the road, we can see some more of the work going on here where they have the landscape trees. Even more of them have been delivered, and it looks like they're starting to fill in with dirt some of this excavation section as well. So interesting to see how this will continue to develop as time goes on. I'm going to give you a good view here as we arrive at this landscaped section with the new gray gravel. And we'll take a look at the main entrance and how it is starting to change. Not only will you see the different colors of concrete in that trapezoidal section, but also they're starting to add some of that black geotextile membrane, and also there's some of that darker gray gravel being delivered as well. So we may see a similar treatment that we saw by that landscaped section on either side of these cyber berms, which are still under construction. We can also see inside because it's well lit, and the trapezoidal section continues all the way onto the inside, extending this through the glass doors. And it looks like there is a platform of some sort being installed at the end of that trapezoid. We can also see on the left-hand side of the screen a brand new staircase that has been installed as well. Plus the entire interior has been reconfigured by cutting away the second floor, making it a kind of a V-shaped mezzanine. And then as I pull back here, you can see that darker gravel that has been delivered here that'll be spread on top of that black geotextile membrane. Looks like there's some landscaping dirt and material right next to the walls as well. It does look like they are pushing to try to get this done as much as possible before the Investors Day, so we'll see if that actually happens. So let's continue further to the south end and take a look at some of the changes that are going on this side of the building as well. Now, first, right next to the bottom of the screen, we see that crews have extended that trench and filled it back in under the road where they put the blue water pipe. And in this area we see where the Griffin crews continue to do the dewatering with that red tank. And also we see the linear plate shaft construction well underway. That's that large round device, and we talked a little bit about what this is in the video intro. As you can see here, it is much deeper than it was just a couple of days ago. So now that they have that linear plate shaft material protecting the sides of the excavation, they're able to start digging much deeper into the ground. And they have quite a bit of materials here, as you can see, to extend that significantly down into the ground. So it'll be interesting to see how deep this becomes. We'll take a look at this when the light improves in just a bit. But as I pull away, this is a good view of the entire south end. You can see that the white stain continues to extend to the west on the south end. They just have that one section with the temporary platform. They haven't put the white stain yet, but they're continuing to work right now near that southwest angled corner. Again, a good view of the south end clearing. I think that dewatering and that linear plate shaft work is related to when this construction on this end will continue. But we'll continue to fly towards the southeast to give you a different perspective on how the building looks here. You can clearly see the difference in color of the white versus the unpainted gray walls on the east side. So I'm going to reposition the drone back towards the south. We'll go over the power lines, and I'll bring the drone down a little bit lower, and we'll take a look at the changes of the material staging and the trailer section just to the south end of the cyber pond. And as you can see, there's still some of this steel materials, but just not a whole lot anymore. And you can see that where there used to be 3 trailers, these white trailers next to that yellow crane, one of them has been moved away, and I think they've moved it over to the east side material storage, and I'll show you that in a little bit later. There's also these trailers that still have the rebar waiting for application at some time in the near future. As we get close to the south bridge, I'll bring the drone up just a little bit. We'll peer over and we can take a look at that west expansion of the warehouse on wheels, that large triangular parking lot for the contractors, and what little bit left of the material staging remains on that side of the highway. And I will again give you a different view from a little bit higher up of this south end. And as I mentioned, the light has improved just a bit, so I'm going to bring the drone back in and give you another look at this linear plate shaft installation and how this is all starting to come together. You'll note that they have that yellow tube. I think that provides air for the workers. And again, you can get an idea with the size of that ladder, just how deep this has become. You can also compare with the crew next to it to see how much depth it is already. And you can see that the dewatering red tank is still operational at this time. Notice that all of the Model Ys have been moved away from the supercharger stations, and that's to allow for the white staining process to continue. And the same over here. You can also see that the windows have that plastic covering on it. And this is a good view here showing how the workers are, in this case, rolling on the white stain to the walls. And I've had some people ask how many coats that they apply. I believe that they are applying 2 of them to ensure proper adhesion and coverage of the white stain. But you can see as I pan the drone towards the east, a lot of activity in and around this temporary platform. There's a lot of materials that have been delivered, some in that silver wrap, others in the wooden crates, and those are being prepared to be lifted up onto that platform, which serves the third floor of the General Assembly on this side of the building. These two large doors, you can see that concrete truck just exiting, is part of the stamping 2. You can see there's a trailer with several pipes getting ready to be delivered into this area as well. And you can also see some of these concrete pipe segments waiting for installation. More deliveries on the right-hand side of the screen. What I'm trying to show you here is that there's further excavation work for a foundation, a deep foundation for more of the AIDA and other stamping machine and metal folding machines. And some of those are located here in the blue wrap and some of these blue wrapped containers. This is most likely the equipment that will be mounted onto that deep foundation once it is completed. So let's pop up over the power lines and let's take a look at the activity going on this side of the building today. We're flying over the sedimentation basin, kind of an empty pond, if you will, and we see quite a bit of activity in this smaller parking lot. And you can see Model Ys arranged next to the test track, and actually a Model Y just drove by using this test track as part of that initial testing and calibration before the vehicles are ready for shipping. You can also see on the left-hand side of the screen that half of the superchargers have those solar panel canopies. The other half do not have them yet. I think part of the reason why they haven't installed these is that they needed to get this side operational to allow for that white stain to be applied at that south end of the building and to be able to move all the Model Ys away. This is a good view of the turbo roundabout, if you will, with a lot more of the concrete now finished up in the central section. You can see all of that kind of as a outline, and it looks like they're continuing to work on this particular section. I don't know if they are going to get this done by Investors Day, but I bet you they're going to try. We can see here next to the receiving doors not only a lot of the concrete, but take a look at the load levelers or that loading system. The concrete is very high above the concrete apron, so it suggests we'll see different kind of load levelers attached to these particular receiving docks. As I pull away, this gives you a good view of that turbo roundabout and how it is shaping up. I'll be curious to see what they put in that central dirt section. I think it'll be landscaped, but maybe they'll bring one of those old oak trees from the east that they've been relocating. But I'll continue to monitor that as time goes on. As I pull back, I'll give you a good view of the new car staging and transportation lot, where you see quite a bit of trucks picking up Model Ys, moving them off-site. And as always, the amount of trucks arriving and departing is just constant right now onto the site. So we're going to continue to proceed up towards the north, and we'll take a look at some of the activity on this side of the parking lot. You can see where they're storing some of those blue water pipes and some of the black HDPE treated water pipes. This is a good view of that north parking lot, just north of the building and the two cyber berms, and how this north end looks. And as we get down closer, I'll show you how that materials in front of the paint shop are looking. But this whole section looks like it's clearing up. Again, it may be in preparation for Investors Day. Now here on the northeast corner of the casting machine structure, we see quite a bit of these castings. These tend to be for recycling. We also see two Model Ys painted in white amongst here, probably for recycling, and we see another Model Y in primer on that rack system that they use to move the bodies around. Now, as I mentioned, here at a closer view of the north end of the paint shop, notice that almost all of the parts and materials have now been moved inside or relocated away. This site is very much clean compared to what we've seen in the past weeks. And again, I think that they may be doing this to prepare for Investors Day It also just suggests that they are installing quite a bit of those components inside right now. And there's a good view of the battery cell production portion of the building and the ventilation shafts and cooling ducts on top of the roof. So let's proceed a little bit further to the north, and we'll take a look at the electrical switch yard and some of the activities in this section of the site today. I brought the drone down here to take a look at the south end of the temporary switch yard. We see some of these materials. The long poles on the right-hand side are for that 7th A-frame, and we see those two V-top circuit breakers waiting for installation. And again, I'll show you where those are located or will be located in just a second. But this is a good view from the south end of the new permanent electrical switch yard. We see those two circuit breakers continuing to get some assembly work, but they look like they're nearly completed, almost ready to connect to the grid. Here's a good view of the steel assembly, and also we can see these footings are nearly completed. You can see those rectangular ones on the left and then the other ones with the forms on the right. Those where the V-top circuit breakers will be installed. We can also see that section with the footings. The four larger ones are where that A-frame will be installed once those are ready to have the steel installed as well. So let's position the drone towards the north, and we're going to fly much further to the north. I wanted to take a look at this field. This is where the permit for the North Logistics lot will be constructed. On my previous video, I noticed that there was some activity on this southwest corner, and I wanted to get a closer view of it. What it appears is that some of this is just some debris, some tree debris, and other material that will be recycled. But you can also see that pile of dirt on the sort of the left center of the screen. That is what I saw. There were some dump trucks bringing some of the dirt from the north end clearing of the battery cathode plant over here. So not sure what that's for, but I'll continue to monitor that. You can see all of the materials that are being stored up here on this very large field. They're using some of the concrete segments that were cut and removed from the south end of the main building. And I will just pull away here just so you get an idea of just how much of these materials in the blue and green and white are being stored up in this section right now. And you can see the battery cathode plant and the main building in the far distance. What we're seeing coming up on the left-hand side of the screen is the equipment rental yard and also a maintenance kind of a rounded top tent. We can also see that they're using some of those concrete segments here with that trailer. And this is all for mud mitigation, most likely. And again, more of those concrete sections here on the bottom left that were cut and removed from the south end of the building to allow for that new construction to begin. Speaking of which, we see more excavation on this remaining dirt hill, and the overall grade of this north section continues to be lowered and flattened out. So it'll be interesting to see what, if any, future construction happens here. We see more of the materials, especially the red and silver materials, have been delivered and stockpiled up on this portion of the battery cathode construction site. And also in the middle of the screen, I'll try to get you a better, closer view. We see all of these red components on these trailers and then some nearby. I think these may actually be more bridge cranes that will be installed inside both the die shop and the battery cathode shop at some point. So we've already known that one large bridge crane has been installed in the die shop. It looks like more have arrived as well. And as we fly over some of these materials, we see the Evapco components and fans that will be installed on the west side. I'll try to give you a good view inside this section of the battery cathode plant, both of these large openings. And you can see some more of those white sections that are used and assembled for platforms, and all the equipment that has been installed on top of the platforms that are right over the SACME presses that were previously installed in that deep foundation. And in this material staging location, we see more of that red and white platform components, and also some of those gray, looks like tops that will be installed onto the various columns that are in the white steel. So as I reposition the drone to start looking back towards the northwest, to just give you a good overall view of the battery cathode complex of buildings now and how it appears today. Again, quite a bit of activity on this east side with those 3 temporary platforms. And now as we move over to the west side, we take a look at this kind of alleyway between the die shop on the left and the battery cathode plant on the right. And as we fly through this alley, you'll see that the electrical conduit and the concrete vaults on the ground floor continue to be configured. Also, you can see that black vents have been installed along at least half of the battery cathode building opening on near the roof. Here we see more of the yellow moisture barrier and rebar being installed for this large section of ground slab. This will be the 3rd major section that they've completed. And then here at the galvanized steel structure, we can see quite a bit of materials and equipment have been installed, some electrical equipment near the concrete wall, some of the pumps, a lot of the pipes, and just other material waiting to be installed on here on the south end. As I bring the drone up and a little bit closer, you can see how all of the pipes and the manifolds have been installed, and that grate system that lines around those rectangular openings where those Evapco parts that I mentioned earlier will be eventually installed. As I reposition the drone on the north end, we can see some of the materials here underneath that white temporary roof structure, and it looks like some of that structure is now being removed as some of the equipment is now no longer underneath that structure. As I reposition to look back to the south, this is the die shop. As I mentioned, 2 large sections of the ground slab have been poured, and it looks like cross-cut here on the north east side, on the left-hand side of the image. On the right-hand side, with this blue and white crane, you can see these trailers with the rebar. You can also see the workers inside these large forms, making this extremely deep and heavily reinforced foundation. And I will move the drone around the corner and give you another vantage point of how this very deep foundation is coming along. You can see quite a bit of the steel work for the main structure is completed as well. And here is a zoomed in view just so you can get an idea of the size and the depth of this particular foundation. Take a look at the workers and compare them to the height of the forms around this structure. You can also see how they're installing the rebar and preparing that to receive concrete at some point in the near future. Just to the south, we can see another section that has those densely packed piers, and it looks like they are not, at least right now, making a deep foundation on top of this. So I'm curious to see what they do. The red bridge crane is installed right over that large receiving door, and as we continue to maneuver ourselves around the south end, we can see that crews here continue to work on some parts of the steel structure using those various man lifts, but also on this end of the building we can see at least 3 distinct very large doors that will most likely have roll-up doors and are used to move equipment and machinery in and out of the building. So I'm going to turn the drone back towards the west now, and we'll take a look at the activity here where crews continue to prepare the blue water pipe and also are filling in some of this trench where the blue water pipe was installed, and you can see that activity here. Other water pipe, the blue ones, and the treated water, the HDPE black pipes, are nearby waiting for installation. As I pan the drone to the south, we'll get a chance to see this old housing complex The house is still remaining, and also kind of that monument in that grassy kind of oval section, but I expect to see those moved pretty soon. This material staging location that used to be the temporary parking lot, and also before that the warehouse on wheels, continues to see more equipment and supplies delivered, and you can see a couple of large trucks here delivering some pretty large items here as well. And then overall, where this is located in relation to the main factory in the distance. So I'll do a big pull away up at a higher altitude just to reveal the entire east side. And as always, I just hope that you enjoyed these early views, some of the discussion we had in the video intro, and the discussion along with the video as we flew the drone. As always, thank you very much for your support. I do very much appreciate it. I hope you have a great weekend, and looking forward to Investors Day next week. Take care.